Thank you, Polly. Living love through welcoming waters. Okay, I'm just going to leave that slide up there. So this Sunday is a big one in Unitarian Universalist calendars. We're not big into a lot of rituals, and so the mingling of the waters in the fall and then the flower communion service in the spring are probably our biggest two. And I have to start with the story of my kids, Alex and Christiana. Because when they were little, this was by far the most popular service of the whole year. In fact, I just saw my son and his wife, he's now 30, in Minneapolis, and he confirmed that this was his most popular service. In fact, it was so popular that our kids would plan all summer long where they were going to get their water and then save it for this service. And so some of you that predate digital cameras remember that we had film at a time, and we had these little film canisters that were these little black plastic containers with gray plastic lids, and we would save them because we took a lot of pictures and saved them afterwards. And we had a bag of them in the car. So wherever we were, they would have something that they could save their water. In fact, they'd save a couple of them and decide which one they wanted that Sunday morning to bring. And the one that struck me the most with my son, because it's so him, we visited his aunt and uncle in Washington, D.C. one spring break. And we went to numerous museums, many Smithsonian museums, particularly history museums. And my son to this day is still a huge history buff. Now it's more into world history and places I've never even heard of. But back then it was American history. And he was so excited about that and visiting his aunt and uncle in D.C. for a week that he said he had to have some water from the Potomac River. And so we found a place. It's not very easy from the mall, but anyway, we got down and got some Potomac River water. Now, this was the end of March, beginning of April, and he had planned that far ahead for September that he was going to have that water and bring it, and it had to stay in the refrigerator, of course. I think maybe we froze it just to make sure. But that was just an expression of how much he just loved history and loved this kind of vacation with his aunt and uncle and his family. Now, my daughter, Christiana, was much simpler. It was always from Lake Michigan or one of the tributaries to Lake Michigan over on the Michigan side. Because every summer we'd go see Grandma and Grandpa, and aunts and uncles would come. And it started out when we were younger camping, and then it gradually moved to let's just rent a house because we like real beds to sleep in. But it was just a really relaxed week of hiking up the dunes, tubing down the river, kayaking, that kind of thing. So she'd always get water from that trip and bring it. But even though that was love of family and love of the beautiful surroundings and the relaxed week, I think most of all, they found the love in just this service at the Appleton Fellowship. They grew up there, they never knew any other religious organization, and just coming together in that community where they knew that everybody around them loved them and supported them. It was just a wonderful environment for them, and they kind of shared their water with love. So I had that whole story and their experiences in mind when I wrote my monthly letter this month. And in that, I said most religious traditions are grounded in beliefs or stories or dogmas which must be accepted to belong. That's kind of typical. But by contrast, we make this statement that we simply proclaim that love is at the center of our faith. Our Unitarian Universalist traditions, our rituals like this one today, our values, our principles, and even our covenants are all firmly grounded in love. And as long as we come here and intend to live love-centered lives, we belong. That's it. But it's not just check the box and sit down. Here we continually ask ourselves, when you get into a situation, and we get into life happens, right? You get into situations all the time. What is the most loving thing to do at that moment? Is something that I always advise people. Or where does love show up here? So today, I hope you've brought a sample of water tied to a highlight from your summer. Now, it can be very simple or very elaborate because you've all been gone about 3 months. Now, most of you were here. I have seen you, but we do stuff, right? So this water could be from your garden. It could be from a lake or a stream. It could be a rainstorm. We had a few of those. Or my favorite is the melted ice in your glass after you drank the iced tea and left it out in the sun. You know, you could just pour that into a container and bring that. That's good enough. So as you pour it into our communal bowl, and those of you on Zoom, we're going to ask you to participate as well. I assume you'll have water you'll pour into a plant or something, and we'll use symbolic water for you, but I want you to pay attention. As you pour it into our communal bowl, I want you to tell us all, share with us all two things. What moment it represents in your life this summer, like where did you get it, what were you doing? And this is more important, where was love present when you collected it? Where was love present when you collected it? So I'll give you some examples that I thought up. So use these if you care, that's fine, there's no copyright, or anything that you come up with on your own. So, for example, water from a small pond in a nature preserve that contains your love of nature. If it's a nature preserve that you're often in, you are drawn there for a reason. It's either love of the stillness, love of the sky, love of the sunshine on the plants, or just love of the environment. So that's the love, and that's the activity. You get the idea. How about water from a backyard pool during a party where close friends and family members showed their love and care for each other? And maybe you were fortunate enough to be someplace where they had an in-ground pool, or maybe it was just a kiddie pool. It doesn't matter. Anything like that. How about water from a fast-flowing stream up north where you were camping or in a cabin and you went out to that night sky, completely dark, filled with stars? And you can't help but look at the wonder and awe and just the love of the universe that's present there. Or just water from your garden hose, which reminds you of your love of plants that you take care of, and perhaps homegrown food if you're that adventurous and have a garden. And this is actually where mine came from. It's the bathroom tap, where love and self-care for me became so real because it was so stinking hot and humid outside with all those bugs that just loved it, and I refused to just be locked inside. So I would do my work out on the table in the shade all afternoon and then just couldn't wait for that shower. So that's where mine comes from today. I think my point here is that we are people living love-centered lives, and we often take it for granted. Love is more than just rainbows and unicorns and that kind of stuff. It's love of life, things that put you into a spiritual high all the time. I know you all have these things. So I want you to take a moment today and share it. And if you didn't bring any water with you, that's okay. That's not shame or blame. It's totally cool. Just come up here, and we have this pitcher that Lisetta let us borrow today. Isn't it beautiful? It's about half filled with water. I'm going to be there if you have trouble lifting it and help put some water in. But it can be symbolic water. But tell us what you have in mind for where it came from and where was love. We want to hear where love was present in your life this summer. So with that, I'm going to leave you with these beautiful meditative words from the Reverend Tracy Johnson that I found. It's called Water, Source of Life, and she wrote them specifically for this ritual. Blessed water, source of life, of which we are wondrously made. Source of sustenance, quenching our inner thirst. Source of refreshment, cooling our bodies. Source of restoration in dry times, penetrating hardened surfaces, rejuvenating, cleansing. Blessed water, source of life, we see your power upon our earth. Watch with awe as it pours from the heavens, filling beyond capacity, raging over once trusted boundaries, rising from the low places. Sometimes filling lives not unlike our own with heartache. And yet we know it is our source and offer blessings. Blessed water, source of life, we share our water today from home, from our favorite places, water that flows clear and cool from mountaintops water that comes in rolling waves, caressing the shores and returning to the sea, water that rises in springs from deep within the earth's surface, water that falls gently and warm or in a sudden downpour from cloud-filled skies. Blessed water, source of life, we honor this collection of water today, not because of its individual sources, but because it is gathered here in this place. In this act of mingling our separate lives, our personal encounters with life-giving water, we symbolize the coming together of this body of blessing and hope, this body of joy and commitment. As these waters are joined, so too we join. We offer our blessing upon this coming together of people and water, a blessing upon our intentions as we gather in celebration, week to week, month to month, throughout the whole coming program year. May our connections be as these drops of water, gently held in the common space of our community home. May we find in this place refreshment, rejuvenation, sustenance, cleansing, and restoration. And I will add, may we find in this place lives centered in love. Amen.